I would say before COVID, around the 2015 to 2019 era, the red pill and MGTOW was more known and respected than the black pill. Not many people really talked about the black pill back then. Obviously after COVID things changed, and I'll get into that in a second. To talk about my own life experience a little bit, I'd say more of the red pill and MGTOW is what I was really watching and getting into around like 2016. That was the year I really kind of found it. It was like from a lot of, I think what started it was a lot of re-uploads of, Tom Likas and his old radio show. There was like a lot of those re-uploads like back in those years of 2015, 16, 17. That's what kind of got the ball rolling of me following the MGTOW ideology and stuff like that. But yeah, back then, I wasn't too deep into the internet. I wasn't too deep in the trenches yet. So I didn't really hear much about the black pill. Somebody would have to correct me in the comments, but I cannot think of, like, back then, a prominent black pill creator or influential figure in the black pill sphere back then. It was mostly red pill and MGTOW. That was what was starting to dominate the manosphere back then. But, then COVID happened in 2020, and that's when things really started to change very quickly. A lot of, the old red pill and MGTOW stuff was starting to, fall by the wayside. It didn't die completely, back then. What was it? Podcasts like what was it, Fresh and Fit? They were starting to go strong. Figures like that, they still had their prominence back in, I'd say, 2020 and 2021. But you could start to see a dynamic shift in the manosphere culture back then, and it was because of COVID and the after effects of COVID that really started to change things, where housing was starting to become much more unaffordable. People were starting to date less. Dating was becoming more challenging, not just because of people having to stay home, but even afterwards, I'd say. Economic instability, the economic decline, demographic decline that is still going on to this day and will be going on for the rest of this decade and probably till 2035 or something, when all these boomers are dying off. And, a lot of boomers did die during COVID also. People are much more demoralized now. And these kinds of negative psychological things, coincide with the black pill. The black pill is not just about dating. It is also about, a philosophy. It is about a mindset. It is about psychology also. Nihilism, antinatalism, those things are on the rise, and those things, go hand in hand with the black pill. Whereas I think, red pill did have a lot of things to say, like, society's lying to you, there's, the blue pill, which is, oofy doofy stuff. Trust all media, trust the government, just do what people tell you to do and you'll live a good life, all that kind of stuff. The red pill fought against that and told you've been lied to your whole life. And so it's not really nihilistic or anti-natalist, though, not really. Now, I know a lot of them say that men shouldn't have kids. That was part of, the red pill and MGTOW and stuff like that, and also not getting married, obviously. But I think there was still more optimism. There was still, hints of optimism, and it wasn't as cynical as the black pill is. So that's one way they're different, is where the black pill is much more cynical and nihilistic. And to get right down to it, like a lot of average people and below average people just don't have that much to look forward to, if I'm being honest. And I think something that's starting to be talked about more now that wasn't talked about much back then, I don't have the stats in front of me, but many people have brought it up, on news stations and things, that, even a lot of women don't want to get married or have kids. MGTOW and the red pill, urged men to, don't get married or have kids. It'll ruin your life. And it's not that that's incorrect. It was always the assumption that a lot more women wanted kids than men did. They wanted to get married more than men did. And probably, a decade ago, maybe that was the case. But it seems very quickly that things have shifted to the point where I think a majority of women, if not a disproportionate amount, do not want to get married or have kids either. And, more than men, surprisingly. You have to almost think of it like the black pill is an even darker truth that you have to accept. Something that really holds a mirror up to society and shows you the very ugly side of it. It's more animalistic side. It's more sociopathic side, unfortunately. And, I often try to avoid drama, but I'm going to have to bring them up. Years ago, 2019, 2020 era, when I first started this channel, I used to bring up Aaron Clary, a couple times and recommend him for some of the things that he said. I don't really like him anymore or his channel. I mean, he's probably an alright person, probably on an interpersonal level. He seems like he's an alright guy. but I could not recommend watching his channel. But he did have a lot of interesting and smart things to say years ago. I think if you want to watch Aaron Clarey, you just shouldn't watch anything beyond maybe 2020, 2021. After that, just watch his old videos. Don't watch any of his new stuff. He's even made videos recently where he's like saying like how the red pill won and it's time to go home or something like that. He never brings up the black pill. Maybe because maybe he's much more of an optimistic person. In fact, I think that's probably what it is. But he never acknowledges the black pill. He just gives credence to the red pill and nothing else. And I don't really respect that. I really wish he would talk more about the black pill. Now maybe he does. I stopped listening to him like a year ago, maybe beyond that, because it's just he says the same thing in almost every single video. He's always bitching about young people not wanting to work and shit like that. When you hear more than what he keeps talking about it and keep hearing it, it gets very fucking annoying. Maybe he has brought up the black pill in some of his newer videos. I don't know. I don't watch some of his newer stuff. Even in his videos where he was talking about how the red pill won and has freed young men to an extent and has exposed female nature, he just never really talks about the black pill or gets more into the darker, cynical side of things, the cynical side of not only the manosphere but just nature itself and how people are becoming much more demoralized. I think it was a YouTube comment or something where, and this relates to that, where like with Fresh and Fit's podcast, the Fresh and Fit podcast, where, and I think it was like on Abbott and Preach's channel, who I also don't really watch anymore and I haven't for a while. When they were ragging on Fresh and Fit, which they should, I don't like those guys in any way, shape, or form. They talked about how a lot of their fans have also probably become black pill. That's probably why a lot of these podcasts are failing because, and you see the rise of more like black pill stuff and more black pill content creators, how they're kind of on the come up now. Where the old Red Pill Fresh and Fit stuff is on the decline because it's garbage, and where a lot of those fans, years ago, their lives aren't any better. The vast majority of their lives aren't any better, so they all became black pilled, and then they go on to watch more black pill content. But yeah, I think like a part of why like probably Aaron Clarey's channel went downhill, I think it really kind of all started when he really started to rub elbows with Fresh and Fit and other creators like that and other Red Pill creators. He used to be very insightful about enjoy the decline. Don't major in stupid things, live debt-free, and you could actually live a comfortable life. That only goes so far, like in trying to provide a good life for oneself. But I think when he really started to promote Fresh and Fit and go on their podcast and rub elbows with these people, like, and similar people to those guys, I think that's when his channel really started to go downhill. Yeah, he may have gotten over 100,000 subscribers and got his little silver trophy plaque thing, but I don't know. I mean, he's even talked about it. I did see one of his more recent videos where he talked about how his, online business, quote unquote, asshole consulting is, down 20 to 25% is what he was talking about. It's because the black pill's taking over and he just refuses to acknowledge it. And one more time, like, I'm trying to avoid drama, but it's just, I got to be real. I got to bring up these things, The black pill, is a hard pillow to swill, but swallow it you must. Now, having said all this, MGTOW or MSTOW, however you want to say it, still has many good points and remains a very valid, endeavor, a very valid philosophy. Because like a lot of the guys that are black-pilled, like, whether you're creating or consuming the content, I doubt any of you would really like to be married. A lot of you probably saw, like, who have seen your friends or family members married, don't see happy marriages, don't see successful marriages. So I don't know why you yourself think that you're any different or would yield any different results if you were to somehow miraculously get married. Contributing less to society, don't have kids you can't afford, do not be with single mothers at all. These are not incorrect things to believe in. Now, obviously, the shitty black pill guys, will try to make fun of that, even though they're still very pathetic individuals themselves, many of them. But they're not wrong in any way, shape, or form. They're like, oh, well, those single mothers don't want you anyway. But you're like, okay, it's mutual. I don't see too many guys who could be MGTOW or MSTOW really wanting to pursue that. I think a lot of guys, or at least people that have self-respect, would rather jerk themselves, like they would rather jerk off than try to be with a single mother. Like some fat, ugly single mother who has another man's kids. I don't see too many guys like really banging down the door trying to get that. It's almost better to be alone than to be with that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys can try to make fun of that, but one, they're kind of pathetic themselves. These are not people of envy. People just need to take a big old bite of humble pie or something. Which kind of reminds me, I have become much more cynical and nihilistic myself, but I think one of the best ways to go forward is to not be completely black pilled. Now, I don't like the red pill either. I don't think being purely and only red pilled is good either. I think it's stupid yourself. The only people that kind of works for is like very rich, good looking, tall guys, and the vast majority of men are not that. That's like less than 5% of guys probably. I don't think it should be red pill or black pill solely. I think one of the best ways to look forward, and I've thought about this, is maybe like half and half. Think of a pill capsule, right? Where half is black, half is red. Or a very, very dark red pill, like a burgundy pill or something. I think that's one of the best things to go forward, where you take good aspects of both and just move forward like with a combination of both. I think that's the best way to, as you know, most guys, excess males, what have you. I think that's how they should move forward, as some kind of like with a burgundy pill mindset or a half black pill, half red pill mindset. I think that's one of the more healthier ways to go forward, instead of being just completely doomer, to be completely cynical, to be completely nihilistic. I don't think that's really healthy. That doesn't really do good for oneself, because I don't know how you can motivate yourself to do anything or even live your life or get out of bed if you are so completely black pill that, you know, the whole lay down and rot thing, LDAR, that's not really good for an individual. So I think, you know, having some aspects of the red pill is probably important, or at least trying to hold on to some small piece of optimism to the point where you can still function in life. And to, you know, piggyback off of that other point I was talking about, how some more unsavory black pill characters try to make fun of like MGTOW or those kind of people. Like, I understand that a lot of MGTOW or red pill creators do deserve a lot of vitriol and to be made fun of for sure, but it's like throwing stones in a glass house. And some women are right, like too many men are pathetic and seek female and societal validation and have like no rebelliousness in them. Or at least that's how I see it. Too many young guys just do not have that rebelliousness nature in them, where they just want to conform. Like even DBDR talked about this, how, oh, you have to seek societal validation. And I just don't, I mean, who is he to really say that as a fact? I don't think you really should. I think you should always just strive to live a comfortable, decent life, if nothing else. Like the best thing for like a sub 5 guy who's like short or whatever, some guy who's like does not have a good looking face and he's like 5'7" or something, one of the best things that guy can do, instead of always you're not going to get female or societal validation regardless, unless you somehow miraculously become rich, like you invent something and become a billionaire. But like that only happens to like 1 or 2 people every like 30-40 years. So one of the best things for an individual like that is to just strive for a comfortable life. If that is you, if you are ugly and short or something, like you're an excess male, one of the best things you can do is to go to school, major in something smart, like something in the STEM field, and get an office job making anywhere from 60 to 120 grand a year. There you go. You've won. You may not get everything. You don't get the sexy wife with big tits or anything like that. You don't get that. But at least you are doing better than a lot of other people in this sphere, a lot of other men. You're probably doing better than 60 to 70% of men. Even the men that are married, who are married to like fat, ugly women that hate them. That's not really a good life, you know what I'm saying? There you go. Strive for a high-paying office job and live comfortably. There you go. You've beaten a lot of other people in this life. So yeah, the main takeaway is, overall, the black pill won. It is a very harsh truth that, you know, came to collect. It just took a while, but it came to collect, and it overcame the red pill these past few years. A lot of like, you know, MGTOW and red pill creators, you know, they're the laughing stock now, because a lot of them admittedly just they're not self-aware enough, and they refuse to acknowledge the black pill. And, you know, as the future becomes, you know, darker and more uncertain, and, you know, a lot of individuals, a lot of excess males are going to find themselves more lonely. It's like a lot of the black pill creators say, the black pill will come to collect. It's a bill that is going to become due. So as I said again, and I'll say it again, like as I said, and I'll say it again one more time, the black pill is a hard pill to swallow, but swallow it you must. You know, as for me, that's all I can do, is I accept the truth. And I'll probably make more videos on this subject in the future. We'll see, maybe. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I probably never will. It's barely even a probably. It's like 90% certain that I never will. And I don't even really pursue that life anyway. One, because I kind of know it's unobtainable, but I also look at it and see it as something like what's available to me. Like when I look around me, it's not something I really strive towards. It's not like I'm banging down the door to that not very good looking dream, that not very good looking goal. I see that and I'm like, I'm good. I think I'll pursue other things, thanks. But that's all I can do. I can accept the truth. I can accept that, you know, the black pill is mostly true for the most part. Just move forward. That's all I can do. Try not to be too cynical, but also have a very realistic look on life, realistic outlook on your situation, and what your future has in store for you, and just accept it. Make changes here and there to try to improve one's circumstances, but the black pill won. I have to accept that. I'm gonna add this little correction to the end of this video. I was speaking on Aaron Clary, where I have to admit there was a time, maybe 2-3 years ago plus, where he was saying a lot of good things now that were black pill adjacent. Like, he does sometimes go there. I don't want to be completely uncharitable. He does go there sometimes. Probably not really recently over the past year or two. But beyond that, he was touching these black pill zones, so to speak. And you see it now, like on his channel. Most of his more successful videos these days are when he talks about the dynamics between men and women, especially young men and women, how they're not getting married or having kids, and how that does not bode well for the future of this country or the world. Like, he does touch on these subjects sometimes, and he says insightful things, where it was like a video where he was talking about how so many women, especially young women, under 40, act very crazy. The stuff you see on TikTok, but also the stuff you might experience in real life, where he also talked about things that he experienced in real life talking to women, like strangers, where they're very standoffish, very rude. They act crazy sometimes. And he says, how does this bode well for a society going forward? And then you look at the marriage rates and how these things are indicative of that. And he's like, what society has ever made it where the men and women don't get along, where they're not getting together and having families? Like, what society endures that? There's never been a society in history that has sustained itself or had a prosperous, successful future. This goes into other things like enforced monogamy, religion, and how that was enforced in society, like, conservative cultures, all that stuff. And so he has touched on that, like where he talked about, the Roman Empire, or where, people that pay him to make videos, where they ask him to, they give him a subject, can you please talk about this? And they've talked about how he should bring up the Roman Empire or empires of the past and old societies and the dynamics between men and women back then. And he has done a good job in many of those videos, so I don't want to be completely uncharitable or be dishonest about that. It's just this past year or two, he has really fallen off in these aspects, where it's just the same slop over and over again of young people not wanting to work, and how women on TikTok are acting stupid, and that gets old very fast.